Hello, Frank. Welcome. Pull up a chair. All right, folks. It's Tuesday night, 6 p.m. local time here in Bali. Time for The Filter. We do this every week. Get together and talk about Bitcoin and all the things that affect Bitcoin. Really, it ends up being a much larger conversation most of the time. Get a little philosophical, sometimes we get a little bit technical, but we always try to make it interesting, and we usually have a bunch of stuff to talk about, and this week is no exception. Let's see. We take a look at some local news. As you all know, it's Bitcoin month here at Hubud, and we've been slowly, day by day, trying to make it dent in people's, trying to let them know about Bitcoin and what we're trying to do with the Bitcoin economy here in Ubud. So I'll give you an update on that. We've got my Bitcoin month. I've lived on Ubud with better or worse results. I'll let you know the ugly and the dirty, as in laundry. And so, well, on our trip around the world, we're going to go to Greece, of course. You could have guessed that. There's interesting soap opera type material that we can cover for Greece, and we will go there. And at the end, I'm going to try and lead a discussion around economic resilience. I want to go through that experiment. What if Greece was happening right here? What if we could only get $60 out of the ATM? What if we were not able to leave? What if we had businesses where we couldn't import or export? What if we had those restrictions? I'm just planting a seed so you can think about it. Towards the end, we'll discuss that. And well, let's get started. I'm just going to share my screen. Bear with me for just a moment so that the folks at home can see the screen. All right. I want you to be looking at what we're seeing now. What you see here is the filter number 50. Does anyone notice a subtle difference in the name of the show? Yes, it's a big deal. It's no longer the Bitcoin filter. We're going to call it just the filter. We do have a Bitcoin sign up there. I don't want to like shock you guys too much, but we talk about so many things that transcend Bitcoin. I thought it might be interesting to pull the word Bitcoin out of the title. I've been getting lots of suggestions to this effect, and I kind of agree that maybe we should be a little bit more generic because, well, we end up talking about so many things. Bitcoin is kind of a factor in all of them, but who knows, you know, if Bitcoin will be the one that survives. Certainly the ideas behind Bitcoin will transcend Bitcoin. And so we decided to pull the word Bitcoin out of the name. So from now on, it's just the filter. But we're going to still keep our tally because I'm so proud of that big number, 53. Might not sound like much, but it's, hey, Christine, welcome. So this is the filter number 53. All right, let's hopefully move on just a second here. There we go. All right, so today the episode is called Honey Badger Bitcoin. And I don't know if you guys have seen the meme. If you want to do a search on YouTube, Honey Badger, and you'll see why the folks in the Bitcoin community have adopted the honey badger as the mascot. Essentially, it is a very small animal that doesn't give up. It can take on cobras and hawks and all comers, ferocious, and it always seems to come back. And seeing as how the Bitcoin price has been a little bit up lately, I thought it might be good to remind everybody that that Bitcoin doesn't die. It just goes away from the common consciousness for a little while, and then it comes back to life. So that's why I named the show the Honey Badger Bitcoin this week. All right, for those who are uninitiated, we do this every Tuesday night at 6, but in the meantime, we have a conversation here at the Bitcoins in Bali Facebook group. If you go to Facebook/groups/Bitcoins in Bali, you can see the conversation taking place. This was movie night last night, and we've got an upcoming event this Friday where we're going to work with Steve an exercise about how money really works, and some stories that people have posted. Basically, we have an online discussion, and then when we get together in person, we talk about it. What's going on here? We're building a Bitcoin economy in Ubud, Bali. Get involved. That's exactly what's going on here in the Facebook group. We also try to foster a conversation on Twitter using this Bitcoins in Bali hashtag. I've got a little announcement saying that we're online right now, so I'll just tweet that out to the world so they can join us in person. And like I said, we're using this Bitcoins in Bali hashtag. If you want to get a conversation going, Twitter is a great way to discuss things, and it's also a great way to get people's attention in the broader world. We've got a, Ubud's pretty small time. It's a small town here. We've got great people here, but there's a lot of people that aren't here that sometimes it's fun to engage with. Here this week, I sent a note to these guys at Life on Bitcoin and said that we'd like to screen your movie. This is a movie that's coming out right about now in the States. They say no, nobody has the rights to the movie in Ubud. So they're going to send me the details. So maybe we will have something either here at Hubud or maybe at Paradiso. But that's pretty fun. By the way, I'll show you a little trailer on that movie in just a second. Like I mentioned, it is Bitcoin month. They have really been very supportive. Obviously, they give us this room to use. By the way, there's air conditioning, and it's also monkey-free in here. There's no monkeys in here. You should. Johnny's playing the monkeys. But every month, I'm sorry, and in the month, offering all memberships at a 10% discount. So if you haven't figured out how to do it with Bitcoin, and they'll give you 10% off. That's been going really well. There's also Bitcoin 101 we're having every Wednesday. You can go to Bali address and just hit join us for the next 101 class. And you can see that that's tomorrow. And let us know you're coming. You can hit this register now button and let us know that you'll join us. I need to do a little bit of prep, and we need to set some things aside so that we have enough room here in the conference room where we are. So, by the way, if you know what you're doing, most of the people in here know what's going on with Bitcoin. But if you've got friends, if you've got anyone that you know is interested, if you've been bothering somebody with all your Bitcoin talk and you want to get them involved, please send us send them our way, and we will show a good time. We've got this down pat 10 or 11 times now, and it's fun and interesting. And the last time I did it, I even I felt like a real teacher because I got a little drawing from one of my students. This is the future is now, and they actually. This is their first bill we went out to eat on Bitcoin after the 101 class. So they got to turn their Bitcoins into actual real world things, hamburgers and drinks and so on. They were Russian. I don't know what this says. It could be an insult. I'm not sure. Oh, that was cool. And like I said, it's filter on Tuesday, Bitcoin 101 on Wednesday, and we got a really cool event where we're going to basically walk through money creation and the philosophy of money this Friday at 3 with Stephen. All right. There's the what is money really? A hands-on simulation. We use it every day and think about it much of the time, but do we really know what it is and why it has such an impact on our lives? Could things be different? Can money be designed a different way to achieve different outcomes? Like if we can get 5 or 6 or 7 people together, it's a really fun exercise. We actually did this once before upstairs. It really gets the juices flowing and gets you thinking about what is money and how does it really work. So that would be cool. All right. These are the guys that I mentioned who are releasing this movie, Life on Bitcoin. Let's check this out together. Just a couple minutes.
I'm Becky. And we're going to live the first 90 days of our post-honeymoon married life strictly on Bitcoin. Bitcoin. A virtual currency.
I'm Becky in Austin. We're going to live on Bitcoin for 3 months. I was pretty worried for them.
It's our goal to take care of all of our necessities with Bitcoin. How did he ever really become legit if the federal government really seems to fundamentally, and they do, have a problem with it?
Governments are boring. They're static. They're past. They like things to be totally predictable. Just a model to think control. The Fed pretend to be very excited about Bitcoin, like they're very excited about all the genetic technology. Now, if you don't know what Bitcoin is, want to buy some Bitcoin? What was the worst that could happen?
Well, right? I mean, they could lose all their money. I believe that there's an outrage.
Right now, we're headed out to go talk to gas stations because all of this is great.
Here.
We can take care of almost everything, but if I can't get around, we're in a world of trouble. Have you ever heard of Bitcoin before?
This kind of stuff is scary. I mean, the volatility of it has been outrageous. Yeah, it goes from 100 to 260 to 100.
I don't care about any of that anymore. If they take Bitcoin.
Maybe come over to Canton with us.
We don't have a way from the airport.
You need to have a connection that's as reliable as having a coin in your pocket. It's a question of how long you can do it.
We're a digital world now, and our currency hasn't been digital.
All right. Maybe we can even talk to those guys coming to Ubud and explaining what. Now, they did this back in 2013, which is a couple of years ago. It's a different world now. There's a lot more infrastructure. There's a lot more companies that make it easy. I was using Bitcoin in the States before I left, but that was in late 2013. But it's an interesting experiment, and they did it in the harder than it is now. So I'm really looking forward to this movie. Why? Because, this month I'm trying to live on Bitcoin for a month. We've spent the last year here in Ubud trying to get a little bit of a thing happening, a little Bitcoin thing. There's a few little restaurants that take it. I can buy my pulse for my phone and pay my electric bill, but there's a lot of things I can't do. I am documenting my struggles, I just did a post on had to rely on my friends, which is cool. If there's anything that I can't do, I can usually find a friend that I've been talking to for a year about Bitcoin that will help me out. And Johnny and Christine, lots of other people have offered to help, and it's been great. So there's a nice post there to all my friends that have been helping me through this. Let's take a little bit. So I've got a nomad list pulled up here. Just developed by one of you folks here at Hubud. Basically outlines cities all around the world that are nomad friendly. Obviously, the digital nomad's favorite money is Bitcoin. So I thought I might use this as a bit of a budget. And look at these costs here. This is for Ubud, Bali, Indonesia. The nomad cost, they're saying that you can get by in Ubud for $808 a month. Anybody here think they can get by in Ubud for, yeah? Steven, yeah, you're saying yes? This is a challenging number to me. By the way, it's a little lower still, but this is a really interesting site. We are going to get to see all of my finances here in Ubud, where I spend my money on Bitcoin, and I'm going to compare it to this $808 figure. Take a look at what I've got going on. This is my Bitcoin address. This is my financial life in Bali for the month of July 2015. You guys can spectate and or snoop talk my whole financial life because we're all to see for better or way. And so far, we're 2 weeks in. I have spent $566.89. So we're halfway through. I think I'm on a trajectory to go over that 808. Now, what's interesting about this is in U.S. dollars, right? If you go to Bitcoin, right now, those U.S. dollars are more than when I started, right? If the Bitcoin price had been at the price that I started the month, then I would have spent a lot less, right? But because the Bitcoin price has gone up, this has gone up. So I've spent close to 2 Bitcoins total. Yes, and I'm still living. And for those who are interested, you can go back and see everything I've spent, and you'll probably recognize some of those addresses from local businesses. And I'll break it down for you a little bit more a little bit later. Where have I been spending these Bitcoins? Well, I've been buying Pulsa with these guys. This is actually where I buy the data for my phone. For those of you who are not from Indonesia, you prepay for your phone data, and you prepay for states where you just have a contract. You can just go to a little roadside stand and buy a SIM and an unlocked smartphone, and away you go. I've been using this to buy my internet data for a long time, but for the last few days, I've been getting this very cryptic message that they're not offering data. So yeah, that's been kind of a bummer. I've actually been struggling with that. I bought some plane tickets to go visit my sister in Vanuatu. She's there working for the Peace Corps. And I thought it was kind of interesting that I was able to buy plane tickets to such an unusual place. So Expedia supports Bitcoin in the United States, and only for hotels. These guys, Cheap Air. By the way, I used these guys to take my trip back to the United States last year as well, all on Bitcoin. But fantastic. These guys provide a great service. And like I said, I was able to get all the way to Vanuatu. I'm leaving early next month. I'll be off the grid for 26 days. So you guys can get used to me not being around. I've been going to Seeds of Life. Great great food there, great teas, and good salads. Toko Bitcoin for internet, Pulsa. So what I've been doing now that the other site is down, these guys don't sell the internet data, but I can buy Pulsa and then convert them. If anyone's interested in on how that's done, if you buy Pulsa on your phone, you can actually convert that to data. Pulsa is like the phone credit. So if you have a phone and you spend 1,000 and get like basically a bunch of credit on your phone.
You said just put money whenever it's in.
Right. The phone minutes and the data separately?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's pretty crazy. I don't understand if
Yes, it's all a little bit of a misdirection, but you start to I've been starting to get a feel for how much it costs and when I'm getting a good deal and not getting a good deal. By the way, if you convert Pulsa to internet data, it's not a very good deal.
It's a terrible deal.
Yes, no bueno. But at least it works. At least I'm on my Bitcoin regime, which I'm prioritizing this month.
Electricity as well, even by electric.
This is the one for electricity as well. EC Listrik.
Okay.
That's the electric. I haven't done that yet because I haven't had to pay for electricity yet. But if anyone wants to try it and report back, I'd be interested to hear. Yeah? Okay. We need guinea pigs. All right, I've been going to the Onion, although someone told me they had problems with buying something at the Onion. You know, it's interesting when people, I've noticed this when I've been in other cities, you'll see a merchant on the map and they say that they accept Bitcoin, and then you go and you're like the first customer they've seen in like 3 weeks, and they're like, what's that Bitcoin thing again? Or maybe they just received training, but the guys who know what they're doing are not there, and they kind of shrug their shoulders and say, come back later, or can you pay cash? So I think that happened recently, not to me, but to some, and I don't know, it's kind of a bummer when that happens. But, you know, as we build this Bitcoin economy in Ubud, what we've learned is that it's best to start with things like restaurants and high transaction, low cost businesses, because it's more likely that you'll get regular traffic, so that the staff of these restaurants get used to Bitcoin and what it is and how it works. And also, you know, all of these businesses usually have a back-end accountant of some sort. They also need to get used to how these things are accounted for within the business. And if you're doing one transaction every 2 or 3 weeks or even months, then, you know, it's really, it's a bad experience for everybody. You know, one of the first businesses to sign up for Bitcoin was the Viceroy, and you know, they've got a very expensive product, and not a lot of folks have patronized the business spending Bitcoin, and as a consequence, you know, the experience is, you know, it's just a little bit clunky because they don't see it every day.
So here, so I should be in the course of 100 because that's my first contact with Bitcoin, so I know almost nothing. But is there like a directory of addresses of places where you can go in Ubud? There
are. That's a great question. In fact, that was one of the questions on our Bitcoins in Bali group, that we need like a directory.
I mean, I can make it tomorrow to the 101, but I'll try next week. Just I'd like to confirm that I have.
Yes, if you come to the 101, I'll show you the directories that are at your disposal. But the guy who owns Kismet was asking if we could like put together our own little directory, and that might be a fun project for us to do.
So there's the 101 tomorrow?
There is tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Yeah, we'll do another one next week if. Yes, it's the very basics, like we start from scratch, and we're doing that every Wednesday this month. Yes, bring them up. It's been fun. I mean, it's not for everybody. Not everybody finds this as fun as I do, but we've got it down to about 2 hours, and then we go out afterward, and yeah, should be good. The other thing that I'm doing to get by is I've printed my own money. I'm my own Federal Reserve. It's very empowering. I've got a very big head now. I've got lots of hubris because I can print my own money. This is how you do it with Bitcoin. For those of you who are uninitiated, you know, if you've only ever just used your wallet on your phone, you might not know the low-tech version of Bitcoin, which is simply a Bitcoin address, which is how people send you Bitcoin, and a key, which is how you prove that you have control of Bitcoin and can spend it. So you can print these out on a piece of paper. I do it with a little bit of software from bitaddress.org. And if you, what's cool is I'll refresh this and show you how it works. Essentially, you go to this website, and the first time you go there, it needs to generate the addresses for you, but it needs to do so randomly. So I'm producing some randomness with my cursor here. It's just, okay, and then when I've done that enough, it generates the Bitcoin addresses from me with a very random seed sample, so that it can generate something that the world has never seen before. So and then you click on this paper wallet tab, and there's my paper wallets, and I can say I'd like 10 paper wallets and generate, and then it will do like several pages. And anyway, what I've done is I've created these, and I put them in my backpack, and then if I'm out and about and I get a friend to do a favor for me, they don't have to pull out their phone or download an app. I can use this piece of paper as like a Bitcoin IOU. That's basically how I've been using it. And what I'll do is we'll have, we'll pick up my laundry, for example, and it'll be 50,000 rupiah. And I'll send the equivalent of 50,000 rupiah to this address, and then I give it to them. And if they're totally uninitiated to Bitcoin and they just want to help me out, then I tell them, at the end of July, you can bring me this paper back, and I'll give you what I owe you, or perhaps this piece of paper will be worth even more than it was when we did the transaction, right?
Is that
so
into money laundering?
At the yes, my
It's laundry money.
Laundering money.
my laundry is so dirty and copious that really you could move a lot of money through my. It's true. Okay, so actually, this is a really interesting thing, like to take home for Thanksgiving, or take to your next family gathering. You can give people Bitcoin by just handing them a piece of paper. It can be fun.
So if we were having problems using our mobile phone to get scanned, then we could use this.
You could, although when I give someone that piece of paper, I still need to scan the address with my phone so that I can send the appropriate number of Bitcoins. So it helps a little bit because they don't have any technology to deal with. They can just take the piece of paper. Yeah, I mean, actually using Bitcoin so much this month, I've bumped up against lots of technical problems, like my phone running out of batteries, or a friend of mine, her camera didn't work on her phone. She had like a smudgy lens that didn't work. One person's wallet, the Bitcoin wallet did not have access to the phone, so we had to go into the phone settings and make sure that the app had access to the camera. So there's all kinds of technical things that can go wrong. I think this is Bitcoin's biggest roadblock to adoption is usability. It's not quite ready for your grandma yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there, but it's not quite there just yet. Okay, so doesn't this look like fun to look at? This is any accountants in the room? This is basically my Bitcoin expenditures for the entire month, right? On the 30th of June, I went to the Bitcoin ATM and I bought 0.0568 Bitcoins at $261 per Bitcoin. And these are all the inputs, all my transactions for the entire month. So what I've been doing is, and this is what I advocate for people is, buy some Bitcoin, spend some Bitcoin, and then replace it. And then you really don't have to worry so much about the volatility, right? Because if you're buying, spending, and replacing, then you're never subject to too many ups and downs. And if Bitcoin rises over time like it should, if it is going to succeed, then this should be a winning strategy. One of my outings, we sat down to have lunch at a place that didn't take Bitcoin, and I was really excited because someone was going to buy my lunch and I could give them Bitcoin for my lunch. And one of the guys I was with was like, "Oh, I don't want to spend any Bitcoin because I bought it $800." So he is actually not spending Bitcoin, not participating in the Bitcoin economy, because he bought his Bitcoins at a very high amount, right? And he's waiting for those, if he were to buy a sandwich, then he'd be paying, in his mind, he's paying twice as much for the sandwich as it's worth if he just pays cash, right? So, but the problem with that is that in the meantime, he's he's not participating in the Bitcoin economy, not creating a demand for Bitcoin, and really not doing his investment any favors by sitting on the sidelines. So it's a bit of a catch-22. You know, I bought Bitcoin at $800 as well, but I also bought Bitcoins at $30. So I'm like I've got a different headspace. I wonder how many people there are in the world that have been buying Bitcoin for the last year. It peaked at like $1,100. You know, if they're interested in it philosophically, maybe they're buying, watching it go down, 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 and perhaps they're not wanting to spend it because they've lost money on their investment. Well, you know, that's all fine and good, but as you can see, you could set aside that investment and buy a chunk to spend and replace in order to support the Bitcoin economy, like I've done here. So, you know,
Like replace.
Well, I put some Bitcoin on my phone, and I go to restaurants and I buy my pulsa and I go get a massage, and then when I'm out of Bitcoin, I go to the Bitcoin machine here at Hubud, or I get on the Bitcoin exchange and I buy more Bitcoin, and then I spend that.
Like to get more.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you fill up your wallet with cash, you spend it, and then when you're out of cash, you go back to the ATM. That's how I've done it.
So, one person, you think that what's the name? Bitcoin.id is a good exchange, but there's sort of few fees there, like transfer.
Yeah, there are fees. It costs I think 0.03. Well, if you help with their liquidity, I think you can trade for free. If you want to place a what is it? Not a market order, but a limit order, then you pay 0.03%, which is as low as it gets. That's as low as I've seen. And then if you want to sell Bitcoin and withdraw rupiah into your bank account here in Indonesia, it's 1%. Right. So.
Yeah, I was looking to buy that because the price is lower, and then putting on my Bitcoin address in the wallet. It's 95,000.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at the fees recently, but there are a few fees. I mean, that's how they stay in business. It's
I like to keep it secure in the wallet more than. I mean, it's still in the wallet, but it's online with the password.
Oh yeah. Well, I think you should definitely not store your Bitcoin on the exchange.
Yes. Definitely.
I mean, when your Bitcoin is in the possession of the exchange, it's not really your Bitcoin. I would only keep Bitcoin there if I was looking to trade it in the next day or two, and I wouldn't have an amount there that it wouldn't kill me to lose, because essentially there are no real safeguards. If they get hacked, they go out of business, whatever funds you have on that exchange at that time could be gone.
So you use them to buy them and then you transfer to whatever.
Right. Yeah, we teach you at the 101 class how to keep your own Bitcoins, how to keep possession of your own Bitcoins, and that's what I would suggest.
Yeah, but I don't think that there's a fee to move from Bitcoin that you've bought using rupiah to your personal wallet.
Right, yeah, there's no withdrawal fee there.
Yeah, I think it's only if you're converting or using a service that costs them.
Yes. They're quite reasonable versus other exchanges. I'd be interested if you found something less expensive.
Yeah, so far they've been by far the cheapest, and I've tried in Canada and the UK, a few different ones.
Yeah.
Well, I found one other one in Canada that was quite cheap, but it seemed like it was just one guy kind of working out of his attic sort of thing. And like we were emailing back and forth, and he was like, "Okay, want your Bitcoins now."
Well, the other thing that's interesting about Indonesia is it's a smaller pond than the rest of the world, and often when the price is on the move, there's a lag because there's less liquidity in the Bitcoin market here. So if everything gets more expensive on Coinbase or Bitstamp, you might still be able to get a good deal on the Indonesian exchange. So yeah, but it's, I don't worry too much about the fees because the volatility is so much. If you spend a few days like trying to save 3%, you could make or lose 3% anyway. So I don't worry about it too much. I mean, I'm buying and spending and buying and spending, and convenience is I'm willing to pay $3 when I go to the ATM to get cash out, and I'm willing to especially willing to support the local economy by paying 3%.
I sort of feel like the opposite of what you recommended here of buying small amounts, and instead we really need is a proper derivatives market. So you can hold all your Bitcoin, but hedge the risk against the dollar. So you have $1,000 of Bitcoin. Next month it's still $1,000. Next month it's still $1,000. For that you need derivatives.
Right.
But there obviously aren't many places where you can do that.
Yes, there was someone I was talking to, and maybe it was you, Simon, that was talking about who investigated and thought it was very expensive.
Yes.
Didn't the Winklevi Fund offer derivatives?
Well, when they launch an ETF, that would be perfect. Right?
They did. The Winklevi brothers,
Yeah, Winklevoss.
aka the
I thought they
Winklevi.
hadn't launched it.
Yes. No, they're trading, I believe.
Well, and I know that Coinapult has this thing called locks, which is allows you to peg your Bitcoin to a fiat price, but yeah, you're gonna pay that way too.
There's one in Hong Kong too, isn't there?
Like ANX or
No,
I'm thinking Gatecoin.
no. Let me look it up.
okay, maybe you can post it in the group if you realize that. But I mean, you might be right. I'm interested in just experimenting. If someone wants to try and live for a month and try and hedge their Bitcoin stash with a futures contract, that would be fascinating to take a look at. So we can compare and contrast. Okay, we were finally gotten to the price. $290.06 per Bitcoin. 3.8 million, although that was up over 4 million here on the Indonesian exchange. And here is the last. I wanted to show you this. This was kind of interesting. We got a big Bitcoin sandwich here in terms of price, where it went way up to 310, somewhere around there. Took a big spike here and then took a big spike down here. Anybody care to comment on why that might have happened?
Well, the second one was when they announced the agreement.
Yes, this is when they came out with all their sweaty armpits, and like everybody thought that they weren't going to get a deal, and Cyprus looked all downtrodden, and this is when they thought there wasn't going to be a deal, and then this is when they emerged and there was a deal. Seems to be an inverse relationship between the Bitcoin price and the optimism of the Greece negotiations. Now, what's funny about this chart is it didn't go all the way back down here. We settled a little bit higher. We're going to talk about Greece in a second, but I think there's a lot of,
And that's not a little bit. That's like $20, right?
It is. It was down around 270, and now we're at 285.
$200 baseline. That's
It's
significant.
interesting to see where that demand is coming from. So I read a theory that the demand shifting up was not actually Greece. It was China, because China's having some massive sell-off on their stock exchange.
Yeah.
And there was rumours that China was, because the government's meddling in a lot to try and stop the sell-off. There was going to be currency controls brought in, or capital controls brought in. That's what I heard drove that up.
Well,
I'm with you on that. I thought that might be what was happening, but if you watched it, the correlation wasn't there in time. In fact, Steve and I had a conversation about that when that was happening, saying we've got all this market volatility in China, but we're not seeing a spike in Bitcoin transaction volumes. What's happening there? Why is there a lag if that actually is the driver? And I actually tend to think it was the Greece situation. Yeah.
So is there any clarification of where that demand is coming from?
There was a lot of increase in transactions in Europe from other Europeans being like, oh, this could happen in Greece. Now I'm interested in Bitcoin. And I think there was a ton of media coverage because of the Greece thing.
Yes.
Even though the Greeks couldn't actually buy it themselves, but it was just like more people like, oh, maybe I should get some Bitcoin because they're saying Greece
That's what we
is
were
screwed.
expecting for like the two previous weeks, wasn't it really? Like we lead up to the referendum, after the referendum, that's what we were kind of expecting to see. So it's kind of weird that it took so long for that to kick
Yeah, I was also confused about the big jump. I was expecting it to keep going more steady because it was kind of going a little bit, and then I couldn't figure out the big jump. But the big drop was immediate once they had the agreement. It was like that morning 312 announcement dropped to 290. So that one was obvious. I couldn't get this.
Well, you know, some of what I'm reading is that, you know, you've got all these people, you know, you've got the actual people negotiating, and then there's lots of peripheral people that are, you know, technocrats and people who know certain things about certain aspects of the budget that are also in these meetings. All of them have phones, all of them have Twitter, and someone will tweet something, and the market will react. You know, if it looks like there's going to be a deal, the market reacts, and if it looks like there's going to be no deal, the market reacts. And I think it's safe to say, though, this is all speculation. You know, it's not like a bunch of Greeks want to all of a sudden have Bitcoin so they can go buy gyro for dinner. This is like people speculating on the significance of, you know, if they don't have a deal in Greece, then does it mean a Grexit, and does that mean that other things fall, and does that mean it's going to drive future demand for Bitcoin, and I better get mine. So anyway, it is kind of interesting to see such a direct correlation. I mean, this is certainly it looks like there's no deal, and then, hey, there is a deal. Undoubtedly.
The last month. I don't know if you've got it as well, but there's an interesting, if you can bring up the Litecoin charts.
Yeah.
Can I do that easily? What do you use to chart Litecoin? Like Bitcoin Wisdom or?
Bitcoin Wisdom, yeah.
Give it a try.
I don't usually follow it, but 300% is something to sort of take note of.
Yes, yeah. It's do you have any idea why that may have happened? Where do you?
So I think it connects under Litecoin. Over the last month.
Help me out here. Oh, under here, this guy.
So,
and let's look at an older chart.
There you go. That's from 8.
Quite a tidal wave. Is that?
So that's what is it, 67?
Oh yeah, that's much better, huh? We went all the way up to $8. Is that $8? Is that $8? Is this denominated in dollars? Yeah, LTC USD. And now we're back down to like 4.5. So yeah, you've got a much thinner market, a lot easier to push this market around. But I don't know why people would go to Litecoin in particular.
It could have been because we were mentioning last week or the week before about this, transaction thing.
Yeah.
Maybe people feel it's more safe.
Right, or maybe people are thinking that, with a little bit of uncertainty around Bitcoin, maybe Litecoin will be the one.
There was one day last week where Litecoin had more transaction volume, than Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like 53 million to 43 million or something.
Wow.
It does remain the second largest coin, if I'm not, it's third. Let's see. Okay, so Litecoin's at 189 million, and Ripple's at 275 million. But
Litecoin passed it this week.
Look at the volume, though, not the market cap.
It's a lot of difference.
Ripple's done nothing. Well, Ripple's not really traded for that purpose.
Anyway, it's crazy days in the crypto world.
Let me jump back to something before you go off to the first around the world news item. A while ago, Gary was making the observation that across a longer time scale, if you were a consistent Bitcoin buyer, the actual variance in the cost of what's in your wallet versus the actual Bitcoin price is more acceptable. So I just did some quick math. Now let's assuming the first of the month, you always buy 1 Bitcoin. You've done that every month for the last 12 months. So the average value of a Bitcoin in your wallet today is $365.
Wow. Even though you did that for the last year?
That's the last 12 months, starting August 1st to July 1st.
Okay, so
August 1st, 2014.
Right. So we would have gone through the really high period in December of 2013.
Yeah.
And yet still, if you were just buying the dollar cost average or the Bitcoin cost average, got you down at 360?
365.
365. which is
When's that starting?
August 2014. That's assuming one purchase a month on the first of the month for the last 12 months.
that's pretty cool.
That's great, and it started where in August of last year?
It was up like $500-600 for Bitcoin, I think, last summer.
Really?
Yeah, it was quite a bit higher.
Yes.
Yeah, that's when, yeah. But it's interesting if you just kind of, if you really believe in Bitcoin, you can dilute your position, if you will. I guess that's one way to put it. But basically, lower the average cost of the Bitcoin in your wallet, maybe make it more attractive to use and spend. That's a great point. All right, let's go to Greece, folks. Greece gets its first two-way Bitcoin ATM. Of course, they put it in a co-working space. Oh, yeah. And it's interesting that, well, I suppose the regulators have better things to do than to go track down a single Bitcoin machine. And, you know, it's not very easy for Greeks to get their hands on a lot of Bitcoin. They can only get 60 euros out of the ATM at a time. And I don't believe there are a lot of businesses that accept Bitcoin. But it is interesting. You know, one thing that's very interesting is, you know, this happened in Cyprus in the spring of 2013. And, you know, they were talking about bringing in ATMs at that point to Cyprus. And the writing was on the wall for Greece as well. I'm surprised that there hasn't been more Bitcoin adoption and more proliferation of Bitcoin ATMs in Greece. But yeah, I don't know why not. I guess necessity is the mother of invention. You know, people are talking about the populace of Greece not even be able to use their ATM cards. Like only the ATMs are open and people don't know how to use their ATM cards because they're used to still going to the bank. So, you know, maybe Bitcoin is a bridge too far for the majority of the people there. But gotta start somewhere, and we've got our first two-way ATM in Greece. That's pretty cool.
So are they just like bringing in cash by hand? Like how are they putting money into that thing if you can take out 1,000 euros at a time?
Let's see. The ATM will facilitate Bitcoin to euro and vice versa. The ATM has a daily withdrawal limit of 1,000 euro. So I guess, yeah, I don't know where. Well, maybe most people are coming there with cash and they can just dispense the cash that other people have deposited. You know, the ATM is probably privately owned, so they can make their own decision about how many euros can come out of it.
Maybe some businesses trying to buy imports as well. Get cash out of the country.
Yeah. I mean, it would definitely be a gateway to the rest of the world, especially if it goes two ways. Yeah, like, you know, if I had a relative in Greece, I could send them as many Bitcoin as I want, and if they could go to this ATM and get $1,000 out at a time, they're doing better than $60, right? Or 60 euros.
Fascinating to know the stats around that ATM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, let's track them down on Twitter.
Give the cube a call. How many people are standing at your ATM right now?
Where's the webcam?
Yeah.
Also in these countries, I think in these countries they do it. I don't know, but they do it to make like a massive profit. Because I went to search in Italy about Bitcoin ATM, Bitcoin dispenser, and it's ridiculous. Like they were selling 80 euros on top of market price. 80 euros.
On how big a what was it percentage wise?
What?
What was it percentage wise? Do you remember?
For one Bitcoin.
How much is Bitcoin?
Mm-hmm.
It was 80 euros more than mine. It was like,
you know, I can tell you that it's you know, like the ATM here, it's not a moneymaker. I mean, the thing costs like $6,000 or $7,000 US, and you know, you make like, I mean, $20 or $30 a month or something. It's going to take a long time to pay off. And you know, if there's only one ATM in a place, they can afford to charge a higher percentage for the convenience factor, and then it's kind of like true market capitalism. I mean, if it is profitable, more Bitcoin ATMs will arrive, then the fees will come down, and presumably at some time in the future, this better world where Bitcoin is everywhere, it should be quite a lot cheaper. I mean, I hear people tell me stories every day about horrible bank fees, and that's because they've got a monopoly, not because the market will bear that. But, all right, next story. You guys remember this guy, Yanis Varoufakis? Did an interview with New Statesman about the last 5 months of negotiations with the folks in Brussels. Let's see here. What have I got? Absolutely, he's basically commenting on the New Deal. So for those of you who didn't follow what was going on in Greece, they had they've been on a bank holiday for the last 2 weeks. They put the Eurogroup's proposal to a referendum, which happened last Sunday. The Greek people denied that proposal to the tune of 61%, I think, of the population did not want that proposal to go through. Remember, they've been living through 5 years of austerity in Greece, and they're tired of it, and they want something better, or at least they know they don't want austerity. So the government, with that mandate in their back pocket, reconvened with all of the Eurogroup nations on this past Sunday, and they had a marathon negotiation session, 14 hours, and they have emerged with this New Deal. And it's interesting, this, Varoufakis comments on this. He says, totally non-viable and toxic, the kind of proposal you present to another side when you don't want an agreement. The country must stop extending and pretending. We must stop taking on new loans, pretending that we've solved the problem when we haven't. Anyway, obvious that he's not a fan of that. It seems from everything that I've read that the Greek people are not for this kind of deal, although they also do not want to exit the euro. One thing that was very apparent about the polls that were happening in Greece was, yeah, they don't want austerity, but they're quite frightened to leave the euro. They live in, quote, a bad neighborhood and don't really want to be ejected. And so the Cyprus government has emerged from these talks. Where is the headline? EU demands complete capitulation from Cyprus. This appears to be a deal that's worse than the deal that the Greek people rejected. They've got to, I mean, it's changing all the details. I'm not sure I got them quite straight, because some of them are proposed changes, and I'm not sure what's actually in the deal, but it's, essentially changing the age at which you can retire, changing the tax rate, and also taking a bunch of Greek state assets like the Parthenon or airliners that belong to the national airline, or even islands, and putting those up as collateral for the new debts. So this is how modern banking works. You got the IMF.
Can you say mafia? Sorry.
Well, it's fascinating because you've got the IMF. The IMF is a supranational organization. On their board are people from France, from China, from the United States, and they've got the 3rd largest gold hoard in the world if they were a country, but they're not a country. They're something, but not a country. They're more like a central bank to the world. And because of that condition, they're able to do fractional reserve lending to entire countries like Greece. So really, they can simply write a loan, basically just put it on their balance sheet, and the Greek people have to put up these things that are real. They have to give up something that's real for an accounting entry on the part of the IMF. It's really quite fascinating that that's the state of affairs, but that's what we have. Now, as Johnny astutely pointed out, these things still have to go through the parliament in Athens, And I believe that a lot of these, well, the Eurogroup nations that are agreeing to this also have to check in with their own electorate. So this is far from done. Maybe that's why the Bitcoin price never settled back down to its original lows before the controversy. But it ain't over yet, and we will see how this whole thing plays out. But it's obviously been a wild ride for everybody. It's the whole thing is weird. I didn't expect there to be an agreement. It just seemed like, like Barafuka said in that other article, this is the kind of thing you put forward when you don't want them to take you up on the deal. It's like if you're a consultant and you're like, I'm $10,000 a day. You're like, I don't even want the business, and then they come back and say, okay, we'll take it. And it seems like that kind of thing is what's going on.
Something really stinks.
There's
no debt relief written into it either. And there's massive privatisation demand. So it's basically just a massive asset grab. That 50 billion euros is to be put in trust in Luxembourg.
Yes.
In the German Development Bank.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
So Germany is just demanding 50 billion transferred from the Greek people into Luxembourg's
Yes.
into their development bank that the German finance minister is the chairman of.
Yeah.
Like
It's basically like it's Repo Man. It's Repo Man on a national scale.
No sense whatsoever. Hollywood dream shit.
Yeah. Well, and it makes you wonder, like, what is really going on? I mean, there's obviously things something that we can't see. Because how does this guy Cyprus go back to his constituency and say, I know we just had a referendum, and I know you said no, but here's a worse deal than you guys voted on.
That's
We just waterboarded him in the 17-hour negotiations.
Well, we've only got a few minutes left, and before we end, I just want to do a little thought experiment with you guys, because it's interesting. We all live in countries. Most of us live in a democratic society, and we, in America, I mean, I only vote once every 4 years. Maybe sometimes there's like a local election that I care about, but for the most part, democracy to me means going and voting for, making a choice between two candidates that really don't seem that different and don't end up being that different anyway. In the case of Greece, you've got all these people in Greece, and they get a bad rap there. A lot of people, the man on the street interviews, they say, well, those Greek people, if they borrowed the money, they should pay it back. And, they're kind of deadbeats. They just want to sit around and drink ouzo all the time. And it's simply not true. When you think about it, you've got millions of Greek people. They're just going about their business every day, all day. By the way, they work more hours per day than most of the other European nations. It's a fact. I mean, they're not as productive as the Germans, so they end up working 2 jobs and trying to make ends meet, and they don't earn as much money, but they're not lazy. And the question becomes, for me, is, let's say you're an individual, you've got this government that has placed all these obligations on the country in your name as a citizen and taxpayer. What do you do to protect yourself as an individual when these so-called government people are mortgaging you and your future away to people you don't even know in another country halfway across Europe?
For things that maybe you didn't agree with in the first place.
Right. But you've got so-called representation. The little dot. I watched that video that you sent. That was good stuff. What are we to do as a community to protect ourselves against such things happening? I mean, what would we do? Imagine yourself if all of a sudden all the money that's in your bank account, your nest egg, was not available from the ATM. What if you could only get 600 thou out of the ATM beginning tomorrow? Like, what kind of problems would you have? What if your son or daughter is at college and you need to make their tuition payment and that's not possible?
Pay your electric bill.
Yeah, or pay your electric bill, or you have a business and you want to pay for your supplies. If your inventory doesn't arrive, then you're not able to sell it and you're not able to make any money.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's my point, is there are governments all over the world that are going into debt in the name of their citizens. You know, it's easy to create a bond in the United States when you've got 350 million taxpayers on the hook for whatever you create. In the United States, they've taken that collateral, the collateral of 350 million taxpayers, and gone into debt to the tune of $18 trillion. How does that get paid back? I mean, what happens when it's not Greece, but it's the largest economy of the United States who's not able to pay its creditors? Well, and the reason, this is why Bitcoin and the ideas behind Bitcoin are so important. Why it's so important for us to get together and think about these things. I mean, most people in Greece got hit by a truck. Hi, come on in.
Sorry, we were mistaken. The time. 7.
Oh, okay, welcome. It's too bad you're here for the finale.
Yeah.
You're wearing the right shirt.
Yeah.
We will stick around and do the show all again for you guys. We love new people. But you know, Bitcoin was born in 2008, and it was, you know, the idea behind it was to reconcile this situation that we have today. 5 years later with Greece, where you're a citizen that cannot have access to the money that you've earned to pay your suppliers, to pay for your family, to take care of your family. And it's simply not right. It's not right. Most of those people in Greece had nothing to do with the money that was borrowed in their name, and yet they're having to pay the price. And luckily, we've got an alternative. It's still an infant, and it still has a long way to go. For those of you new in the room, I've been trying to live on Bitcoin for the last month. It's a little rocky. It's a little rough around the edges. You know, we're not there yet. Certainly, if all you had in Bitcoin right now, if all you had in Greece was Bitcoin right now, it might be a little tough, but someday maybe it could be different. And thankfully, Bitcoin exists so that maybe someday we will.
I understood that the federal government tried to bring in some regulations.
Yes, indeed.
What was that?
I think there were.
Do you want me to repeat? The question was, she understands that the federal government is interested in regulating Bitcoin. Actually, the federal...
Brings us back to the same situation where Bitcoin then becomes another monetary system.
Well, you know what's interesting about Bitcoin? There were lots of people who wanted to create fair money before Bitcoin came along. There was e-gold and Liberty Reserve and some other ideas. And because there was a company behind it or servers behind it that the government knew about, then they could simply be crushed. And Bitcoin is fundamentally different. There's no head of the snake. They can say there is regulation, but they can't. There's no one for them to attack. There's no one for them to go after. It's simply a technology. It's simply a protocol. It's like trying to sue email. You know, it's like email is just email. You can't really.
They can close down websites.
Well, they can that are using Bitcoin to make money. For example, exchanges and all of the technology companies that are trying to make Bitcoin easy. I mean, make no mistake, if the U.S. government tomorrow said Bitcoin is illegal, it would be a tough pill to swallow. So they do have power, and it would slow things down, but it would not stop it. That's why Bitcoin is the honey badger of currencies. This is my plan. Full circle.
This is happening with any, like most ideas which get social, like Airbnb or Uber.
Right.
I don't know how it is here, but back home, and I don't come from Greece, but almost. So I come from Spain, so it's like.
That's a great analogy. I mean, Uber and what are the other sites like that?
Airbnb.
Right, Airbnb. They're having the same problem that these currencies that had central locus of control had back in the day.
So what happens is like people try to be creative and make money. I was using Airbnb at my place, and now all of a sudden you have to register your house as a tourist apartment, which means you have to pay like 300 euros, and then you have to declare all your profits. So just forget about it. You know, it just doesn't make sense anymore. They try to step into anything that just the society tries to create to get out of the loop. So I don't know really what it's
like.
Yeah.
I think that comparison is flawed, primarily because when we're talking about things like public accommodations and public transportation, there is a public interest in regulation, safety, et cetera, security, things like the rape incidents in India with Uber drivers, et cetera. That's not the situation with the digital currency at all.
I know.
So
I'm not saying that. I just say that there's always governments trying to make a profit out of any social initiative. That's what I say.
But it could be argued just as much that they were trying to protect us from being ripped off by inflated currency.
No, they just want to tax it.
Well,
If there's a profit to be made, they will.
I mean, my point of view is, people should have individual freedom to make their own choices. If I'm concerned for my safety, perhaps I use a regulated service. But if I want to engage with another individual and negotiate my own use of their car or their apartment, and I want to take that risk if I don't know them, I feel like I should be free to do so. That's just my opinion. I mean, other people, like smart people, can differ, but
yes, you don't pay big amounts into political campaigns to get politicians re-elected.
But you can also argue that Uber and Lyft, they're much safer because both driver and the customer review each other, and you have a long history of reviews.
Right, and they don't have to exchange cash.
You can very easily weed out the bad actors, which you can't in the same way in regulated tax companies.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we've learned through Bitcoin is if there is no sheriff in town, the community looks after its own. And you're gonna have a few stumbles, especially in the beginning. But a lot of these things can be done without the government. The government might be necessary for some things, but there's probably lots that they don't have to do.
Necessary for it. Except driving in Texas. Really good.
But we do have peer-to-peer ride sharing, like Mazoos.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really going. I'm just checking it out, but that's where you can do like with Bitcoin and take out the central company.
Right. There's no
just go straight peer-to-peer B&B.
That's the next level. That's the next level. Guys, we're out of time, so I'm going to end the online portion of this. I just want to remind you that it's Bitcoin month here in Hubud. There's all kinds of cool things happening, including a 10% discount on memberships if you use Bitcoin. Tomorrow we're going to do Bitcoin 101 at 5 o'clock. And we've got Money Movie Mondays next Monday. I think we're going to watch the dark web or the deep web next Monday. It's good. It's spooky. And Friday we've got our money simulation at 3 p.m. on Friday with Stephen DeMelinaire.
What was yesterday? What's the movie yesterday about?
The money was Inside Job.
Oh, yesterday. Oh, yeah.
Very thought-provoking. Lots of big names, George Soros and Christine Lagarde, and lots of the folks that work for Alan Greenspan. It's good. I've got a copy of it that I'll sell you for a very good price if you want to watch it.
And tomorrow.
And tomorrow is Bitcoin 101 tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Don't forget, send us your noobs, and we'll set them up right. Anyway, thanks for coming tonight, guys, and we'll see you soon.
That's great.